Are you ready, guys? Ready for
Yeah.
our class?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, this one is exercise that I asked you to do last week. Okay. Okay, so basically, based on this coding, you need to enhance this one using to the array. Okay, so your output should be like this lah. Okay, ini sample output dia. Okay, first you will ask user how many total number value to be calculated, and then how many enter number of value, total value. Okay. So let's say user said total value to be calculated is 2 and number of total value is 3. So means that you're going to calculate 2 total value. That total value will be based on 3 values. Okay. So this is my sample answer. Okay. So I ask user to enter this one I'm going to use integer. This one also I'm going to use integer. So I will ask user number of total and number of total value. Okay. And then, okay, the value will be in 2D. Okay. In 2D. So this value will be based on, the row is based on num total. Okay. And for the column based on num value. Okay. So means that let's say user said they want to calculate num total to num total. So means that you're going to have 2 rows. Okay. And for each total, you're going to calculate the total based on number of total value here. Okay. Number of value. Okay. Maybe to avoid misunderstanding, you just put this one. Okay. Enter number of value. Okay, so enter number of value. Okay, so that let's say user said they want to calculate 2 total value and the number of value is 3. So means that you're going to have 2 row and 3 column. For each row or for each total, you're going to have 3 value. Okay. Okay, and then after that, you're going to calculate the total. Okay, the total for this value. Okay, this value come from this this column lah. Okay, and then okay, this one should be column. For 0 for column in range num value, for row in range num total. Okay, so our row based on num total and our column based on num value here. Okay. And then your total, since we have user enter number of total value is 2, so means that total value also will have 2 total value. Okay. And that's why we put here 0 for row in range num total. Okay. So this one is in 2D array. And this one is in 1D array. Okay. Okay, so when we want to let user to enter the value into our value here, okay, so we're going to use nested looping, okay, because this is in 2D, okay. So first loop is for row, so that's why we put here for row in range, which is num total, okay. And then we will, after that, for each row, we will let user to enter the value into each column. Okay. So that's why we have here for call in range num value here. We will let user to enter value row column. Okay. Enter the value. And then we will calculate the total. Okay. For that row equal to total row, current total plus with the value that entered by user. Okay. Done with this input, we can print the output. Okay. So the output is based on this value as well. So that's why we have nested loop as well. First row, for is for row, And then the second 4 is for column. Okay, so for each total, we will print here. So we will print it here. Okay, this one. Okay, okay, let's debug. Okay, so let's say I said the total value is 2. Number value is 3. Okay, so you can see here. Okay, now you can see here. For the value, we have 2D array. Okay, with 2 row, 1 and 2. And then in each row, we have 3 columns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the initial value in each column is 0. Okay, and for total, we already create the array list, 1D array list. So the total have 2 values here, okay, or 2 elements here, and the initial value is 0. Okay, okay. Now we want to let user to enter the values here. Okay, so for row in range, total value num total 2, which is will start from 0 until 1. Okay, now row is 0. Row is 0 means that we're going to enter the value for total value number 1. Okay, so row is 0, and then column, this one is nothing, just to guide user. Okay, column range 3, which is starting from 0 until 2. Okay, start from 0. Okay, you can see here 0, 0 means that we're going to enter value here. Okay, value the first element in the first row. Okay, so when we ask user to enter the value, row 0, column 0, let's say I enter 34, we will stored in, okay, so now you can see here 34 is stored in row 0, column 0. Okay, next we move to the next step, which is we will calculate the total. Total row 0 equal to row 0, which is 0. The current value is 0 in total. Okay, this one. Okay, in total 0 is 0. Plus with value row 0, which is 34. And column 0, which is 34. So we get 0 plus 34. So now our total is 34. Total 0 is 34. Okay. Next, we move to the next column. In the same row, the next column, which is column index 1. Okay, so column index 1. Row 0, column 1. Let's say I put 45. So 45 will be stored in row 0, column 1. Okay, so here is row 0, column 1. Okay, next we calculate the total. Again, total 0, which is 34, plus with value row 0, column 1, which is 45. 34 plus 45, we get 79. Okay, so now 79 is our current total for 0, index 0. Okay, next we move to the next column in the same row, which is column index 2, the last element in this row. So let's say I put here 31. Okay, and then total will be total 0, which is 79, plus with value row 0, column 2, 31. So we get 110. Okay, so now our total is 110. Okay, the looping here is done. So now we move to the next loop, outside looping, which is row index 1. We increase row. Before this, it is 0. Okay, so now we will increase to index row 1. Okay, so when we increase index row 1, we will continue with column 0. We start again with column 0, but in another row. Okay, row 1, column 0. Okay, row 1, column 0. So let's say I put here 13. So you can see there, 13 is entered. Okay, now we calculate the total. Okay, row 1 is 0, plus with value row 1, column 0, which is 13. Okay, so we get total row 1 is 13. Okay, so you can see here, total row 1 is 13. Okay, we do the same process as before in the same row, but next column, column index 1. Let's say I put 23. So you can see there, 23 is entered. Okay, now we want to calculate the total row 1, which is 13, plus with value row 1, column 1, which is 23. So we get the total, the current total is 36. Okay, so you can see there, total row 1 is 36. Okay, next we move to the next column in the same row, which is column index 2, or the last element. Okay, okay, so let's say I put 42. So now I'm going to calculate the total. Total row 1, which is 36, plus with value row 1, column 2, which is 42. So 36 plus 42, we get 78. So now done with this one, with this part. We already ask user to enter the value into for each total, and we already calculate the total. Okay, next we want to print this one, and we want to check in which category. Okay, so this one is similar as previous. Okay, so you can see here, starting from 0, so you can get there. Okay, samalah ni. Okay, okay, understand class? Okay class? Class?
Okey.
Okay,
Eh?
madam.
Okay, senang je. Ada banyak lagi yang susah akan datang. Okay, senang je yang ni. Okay, next we move to the next one. How to implement array in functions technique. Okay. Okay, let's say now you want to pass an array list to function. Okay, because sebelum ni we do our program using function, right? So now we going to pass, or we going to implement the array into our function. Okay, let's say here you have this one, you have this sample coding. You ask user how many students, and then you create 1D array, name quiz equal to 0 for index in range num student. So means that here you're going to enter the quiz for each student, the quiz mark for each student. Okay, and then you're going to calculate the total mark for that quiz. Okay, so here you have for index. You will use the looping here for index in range num student. You will let user to enter the quiz mark. Okay, here quiz index. Okay, and then here you're going to calculate the total equal to total plus quiz index, and then you will calculate the average by having total over num student. Okay, now instead of we doing like this, we want to do this statement. Okay, this statement inside a function. The function name is calculate mark. Okay, so if you still remember how to do function, we need to create one file. Okay, we need to create a new file. Name that file. Let's say I name that file as calmark.py. Okay, and then inside that file, we need to define our function. Okay, so we start with definition, define, calculate mark, our function name, and then the parameter. The parameter here is because we know that we want to calculate the total and average. So that's why here we need to calculate total, we need quiz. Okay, and this one we need number of student. Okay, to calculate average we need number of student. So that's why here I'm going to put two parameter into this function. First parameter is quiz mark, second parameter is bill student. Okay, and then here inside this one I just copy and then I put it here. Okay, okay, however, since this one is in array, so I need looping here. I need looping for index in range bill student. Okay, and then I will calculate the total mark and average mark. Okay, and after that return that average mark. Okay, I will return that average mark. Okay, so if you see here, quiz mark here is in array. So here this quiz mark will get this quiz. Okay, will get this quiz. So that's why you can see our quiz mark here is in array. Okay, tak apa, kita tengok nanti macam mana. Okay, saya terangkan dulu ni. Okay, so again, once you already create file for your function and define your function, you need to import. Okay, import this function into our main. Okay, so how to import it? From file name, which is calmark, import all. Okay, okay, and then here, instead of you this one we already delete. Okay, so that's why here we have, after we ask user to enter the mark here, we have function, we have called the function average equal to calculate mark. Okay, call this function calculate mark, and then you pass this value and also this value. Okay, so when you pass this value, quiz will go to quiz M, num student will go to bill stud. Okay, so when this calculation is done, this function will return average mark. This average mark will be passed to average here. Okay, okay, let's debug. Pass function. Example berapa ni? Implement array. Oh, bukan. Mana calculate mark. Sekejap ya, tak jumpa cari mana dia punya coding. 2D array, 1D example. Mana tak nampak lah. 2D array, mana function? Pass function intro. Ni kot. Okay, this one. Okay. Saya tutup dulu yang ini. Okay. Main dia punya coding tadi sampai mana? Average, print average. Average and then print average on this one. Okay. Yang ini saya tutup dulu because this one is for 2D. Okay. So first we create one file, okay, and then we name it as a calmark, okay, and then inside this one we have user defined function calculate mark, okay. This function we calculate the total mark and average mark, and then after that we will return that average mark to the caller. Okay, so inside our main function we import the calmark, okay, import all function inside this file, okay. And then we have ask user how many students, and here we have 1D array for quiz. We let user to enter the quiz into this array, and then we will call the function by having this variable equal to calculate mark. We pass quiz and we pass num student. After this function return average mark, this average will receive the value. Okay, so let's debug. This is how we implement array into the function. The same thing actually. Okay, so let's debug. So how many students? Let's say I put 2 students. Okay, so I'm going to ask user to enter 2 quiz for that 2 students. Okay, so we have 2 quiz here. 1D array for index in range 2 starting from 0 until 1. So we will ask user to enter quiz for student 1. Okay, so let's say I put 15.7. So you can see here 15.7 for student 1. Okay, quiz for student 1. Next, we move to the second quiz for second student. Quiz index 1. Let's say I put 16.3. So I have 16.3 there. Okay, now tengok baik-baik. So now we want to call the function to calculate the total and average of that quiz. So we going to call calculate mark by pass quiz. Okay, so we going to pass the whole quiz here. Okay, apa tu, dalam Python is very simple how to pass it. Just put the variable name. That's all. Dia tak sama dengan C lah. Kalau C you have to use pointer etc. Banyak cara dia. Okay, but in Python what you need to do, you know that what is the value that you want to pass. So in this case, you want to pass value of quiz. Value of quiz in this coding is in array. Means that there is a few values. Okay, so you just pass this variable name quiz. So now when you pass quiz tadi, dia automatically pass all the values inside that array. Okay, so that's why you can see here, it will pass all the value here. Okay, so all the value inside the quiz, and then you will pass as well num student, which is 2. Okay, faham kelas setakat ni? Faham?
Faham, madam.
Faham So dia mudah lah. Dalam Python ni sangat mudah. Dia memang akan terus masukkan. Okay, dia terus hantar. Pass macam tu je. Okay. Okay, so now when we pass this, when we call this function and we pass this value, dia automatically go to that file. Okay. So, bila pergi ke file tersebut, ya. Cuba tengok kat sini. Bill student to, sebab awak dapat tadi daripada 6 student. Quiz M, you get the value from quiz array. Okay, dalam array. So, sekarang quiz M awak di dalam function ini, dia terus jadi array 1D. 1D array. Tak payah, awak dah tak perlu create a new array list dalam function ni. Dia terus ada dah kat sini. Okay. Okay. So, now we do the, proses yang tadilah. Okay. Total mark. Kenapa total mark ni dia tidak dalam array? Sebab kita just nak dapatkan one total mark. Okay. So, I'm going to add the total mark here. 15.7. And then after that plus with 16.3. Okay. So, we get the total mark. And then we will calculate the average. Okay, 32 over 2. So, we get the average mark, which is 16. So, now we want to pass this 16. When we return 16, the average, here, we receive that value. Okay, boleh nampak kat situ. Okay, average receive the value. Okay, and then we print out. Okay, understand class? Macam tu je cara guna dia. Boleh? Faham kelas?
Boleh, Doktor.
Okay. So, itu saja. Okay. Macam itu je cara guna dia. Okay. Bersyukurlah awak sebab awak belajar Python. Kalau student fakulti lain tu, dia orang belajar C. Memang seksa. Nak buat pass array dalam function guna C, sangat susah. Boleh katakan beberapa student je yang berjaya buat. Tapi dalam Python, dia tak susah. Awak pass je nama variable name. Variable name ni, you pass that variable name, a variable yang receive this value automatically dia akan jadi array juga. Okay. Okay, so we move to the next one. Okay, now we want to do passing to the array list to function. Sebenarnya sama, except that kita kena guna, bila nak guna that value, we have to use nested loop lah, itu je. Okay. Okay, so let's say here we have yang contoh sebelum ni, we have how many student and we ask user how many assessment. So your assessment will be in, you create one assessment. Okay, this assessment will be in 2D. Okay, so means that let's say student 2, student assessment 3. So means that for each student you going to enter 3 mark for 3 assessment. Okay. Seorang student akan ada 3 assessment. Seorang student akan ada 3 assessment. So that's why here we create 2D array. Assessment equal to 0 for column in range 6 access based on this one. Okay. For row in range 6 student based on this one. Okay. So kalau mouse okay bolehlah saya melukis sikit. Kalau tak memang tak boleh nak lukis lah. So macam ni lah ideanya. We're going to do like this. Okay. So we have this one, the name is assessment. This one assessment for student 1. And this one assessment for student 2. Okay. So we're going to enter the value here. Assessment mark for student 1. Assessment mark 1, assessment mark 2, assessment mark 3 for student 2. Okay. We're going to do like this. Okay. And then after that, we will calculate the average for each student. We're going to calculate average for the student and average for the student. So, for average, we need 1D array. Okay. So, we need 1D array for this average. So, that's why here we have average equal to 0 for row in range 6 student. Okay. So if student, how many students? If there is 2 students, we need 2 average. Okay. Okay, the same thing here. We're going to do the yang macam sebelum ni lah. We're going to use nested loop here, and then after that, we will call this calculate mark, and we will pass this assessment. Okay, and we will pass this 6 student. Yang ini 6 student, and also 6 assess here. Okay, we will pass this one into our calculate mark. Okay, so in our calculate mark function, we have SSM. Okay, so SSM will receive value assessment here. Okay, automatically SSM will be into D. And then bill student will receive value 6 student. 6 assess will be passed to bill assess here. Okay. And then after that, we will calculate the total mark. Okay. So that's why here we're going to have total mark in 1D, and we're going to have average mark in 1D. Okay. Yang ini yang ini yang lama sebenarnya kan. Okay, so kita sebenarnya akan buat macam ni lah. When we have assessment into D and average in 1D, total in 1D as well. Okay. So average for student 1 and total for student 1. Average for student 2 and total for student 2. Okay. So that's why here we have two variable here. One for total mark. Second one is average mark. Both variables are in 1D array. Okay. Okay. Here, we will calculate the total mark and average mark based on value inside SSM. Okay, so that's why here you can see SSM here. Total mark equal to total mark row plus SSM, and in SSM into the array. Okay, and then we will calculate average mark equal to total mark for that row over bill student. Okay, this one is the same thing as previous example. Okay. Okay, if we debug, mana? Sekejap ya. Yang ini dah tak ada. 2D. Okay, saya tutup dulu yang ni. Okay, this one 2D. Sekejap ya, sebab dia ada 2 ni. Return return average mark. Return average mark. Okay, yang ni dalam file function kita. So this one starting from balik sampai average row. 6 assess, average ni tak payah pun tak apa. Tak apa, kita letak je dulu. Row, calculate sampai average. Okay, letak average mark. Okay, so perlu sebab dia yang ni. Okay, so sekarang let's debug to see it in clear picture. Okay, let me clear this one. Okay, so if we debug, okay, I will call that function. So I ask user how many students. Let's say I said 2. And then how many assessment. Let's say I said 3. Okay, when we define it, when we create that one, so we have assessment in 2D for 2 students. Okay, inside for each student, we're going to have 3 assessment mark. Okay, and then we create another one, average. Okay, so now for using the looping, this one is sama sebelum ni. So saya terus proceed, saya tak nak lama-lama kat sini. So mark for student 1, mark assessment 1. Let's say I put mark assessment 1 35. Okay, mark assessment 2 let's say 45. Mark assessment 3, let's say 40. Okay, now we move to the next row or next student. Okay, so I'm going to ask user to enter. You can see here, mark student 2, mark assessment 1. So for mark assessment 1, let's say I put 37. Belum. 37. Okay. Kemudian mark assessment 2, I enter 42. Mark for assessment 3, I enter 46. Okay. Okay, so now we want to call that function. Average equal to calculate mark, pass assessment. Okay, so all this value is passed here. Okay, so you can see this all value will be passed here. Okay, and then we're going to pass num student, which is 2, num assessment, which is 3. Okay, now we pass to that function. We go to this function. Okay, so you can see here our SSM automatically in 2D array. They have this SSM have all the values in the assessment. Okay. Okay, and then we have total mark, we have average. The same thing we will do here. We will calculate the total mark. So you can see kat mana total mark. Okay, so you can see here total mark 120. Total mark over bill student to 60. So we get the average mark for the first student, which is 60. Okay, now we move to the second student. Zero plus with row 1 column 0, which is 37. Okay, yang ni sama macam tadi, saya terus proceed lah. Okay, so we get the total mark for second student is 125. Okay, so we get here, nampak ni. Okay, and then after that we going to calculate the average for student number 2, which is row 1, 125 over 2 student, we get the average mark there. Okay. Okay. Macam ada silap sikit lah. Betul tak? Kelas. Betul ke average mark ni? We want to find average mark for each student. Supposedly what is here? Class?
Bill assess.
Bill assess kan? Ada silap sikit situ. Okay, so supposedly dia bill assess. Because we want to find total mark for each student. Not total mark for the whole class. Okay, kalau total mark for the whole class, memang betul lah kita over bill student. But if we want to find total mark for, total mark, average mark. Average mark for each student. So this one should be bill assess. Okay. Okay. So kita nak buat sekali lagi ke? Buatlah sekali lagi tapi saya cepatkan lah. 2 student, 3 assessment. Okay, assessment mark 1 for student 1, assessment mark 2 for student 1, assessment mark 3 for student 1. Okay, next, assessment mark 1 for student 2, assessment mark 1 for student 2, assessment mark 2, assessment mark 3 for student 2. Okay. Okay, so we call this function, we pass the assessment, the whole to the value will be passed, and we pass num student to num assess 3. So when we pass here, okay, we will get the average. Okay, okay. So here in average mark, when we pass average mark here, this average mark is in 1D array, is in array, not anymore in single variable. Okay, this one is in array variable. So when we return average mark, so you can see here, our average mark here in local variables is in array. So, and then we will pass 40 and 40. Okay. Okay, so when we pass this value, what will happen is actually we pass the whole value inside that average mark. Okay, so when we go here, when we pass, this average will store 1D array. Okay, we'll store this array list. Okay, so that's why we have here average in 1D. Okay. Okay, so when we want to print this average value, we need this for a single for looping. Okay. Okay, so we can get here average mark for student 1, average mark for student 2. Betul ke ni 40-40? Tak apalah, nanti you all kira lah balik. Okay, boleh kelas? Understand this is how array to the array when we want to pass to the array and how to return that array value to the caller. Boleh kelas? Understand?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Next. Okay, yang ini pass array to functions. Kita buka coding dia terus. Which one this one? Calculate grade. Okay, calculate grade. Okay, if you still remember this one, last time we have a function in our chapter function. We have this example to calculate total value. Okay. So when we call this function, right, when we ask user to enter the first value and second value, we call calculate value function and we pass value 1 and value 2 to the function. And then we have another function which is determine grade. Based on this total value, we will determine the grade. Okay. Yang ni yang function yang lama. Okay. The previous function. Okay. And then this one now, instead of, kalau dulu kita guna yang ini kan. So sekarang ni, based on the function yang kita buat hari tu, okay, sorry, based on the array that we have implemented just now, we want to have the function. We want to have a function name, calculate value, that we calculate this total. Okay, total in row equal to total row plus value row and column. Okay. And then we want to have this to determine the grade inside determine grade function. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to build the function calculate value in calculate file, and the parameter will be values, which is array list consists of value that user enter. Okay. Row size to get the row length, which is based on number of total value. and column size, which is the aim here is to get the column length based on number of values. Okay. Okay. So in this one, in this part, we just copy and paste from our previous array statement. So we have here to calculate the total value here, okay, in our nested looping, because we know that our total ni mana? Our values in our values here is in to the array. So we need to use nested looping, okay? And then after that, we going to return the total value in array list, okay? Okay, when we return that value into array list, after that, we will pass that value to the determine grade in order for us to determine in which grade here. Okay, the same coding will be used here. Okay. Okay. However, in your determine grade, you need parameter values. Okay, as a array list consists of value that has been entered by user, and you need total array list of total that return from function calculate value. Total yang tadi, okay, total yang this one, yang ni, okay. So we need in our determine grade as well. Okay, and then we need the row size and also column size. Okay, row based on number of total value, column size based on number of value. Okay. Okay, and then we will return nothing because we just want to print the grade here. Okay, so that's why we didn't return anything. Okay. Okay. So after that, what we need to do is, after we already create the function inside respective files, so we need to import that function by using from import the calculate apa tu? Sorry, the file name calculate import all function, and then the second one from grade import all function. Okay. Okay, and here inside our coding here, we will call that respective functions. Okay, by if you notice here, first we will call function calculate value by passing the array name value, integer num total and num var, and also we will call function determine grade by passing value name value and total, and also integer num total and num var. Okay. So your output will be similar as previous example, except that you do it in function. Okay, let's debug. Kita buka terus yang debug tu. Okay. Sekejap boleh, sekejap tak boleh saya punya mouse ni. Apa tadi ya? Pass function example 3. Calculate grade. Mouse saya tak ada, saya tak jumpa cari. Bukan, yang lab punya dia tutup. Biasa saya pergi pinjam yang dalam lab kunci. Okay, so here. Okay. Kita debug Sebenarnya sama macam contoh yang sebelum ni. Cuma sekarang we do it in functions. Okay. Sama dengan contoh yang yang ini. Okay. Sama dengan contoh yang mula-mula saya tunjuk tadi, yang dalam kelas tadi kan. Okay. However, we do it in function. Okay. So we have here to calculate the total here in this function, and we will pass the total values here. And another function to determine the grade. Okay. Okay. So when we debug, we call the function. We ask the user. Okay, we ask user how many total number. Kejap. Jadi confused bila letak kat simple number juga. Okay. Okay, how many enter number of total value to be calculated. So let's say I said 2 total values. And then enter number of values. So let's say I put 3. Okay. So now we create the 2D array. We have value in 2D array. So means that we're going to calculate 2 total value. For each total value will be calculated based on 3 values. Okay. And then we have total into the array, total for total 1, total for total 2. Okay. Okay, now this one is the same thing. Okay, so I just step over. Number 1, value 1. So let's say I put 34. Number 2, number 1, value 2, 43. Still number 1, value 3, 45. Okay. Now move to the number 2, value 1. Let's say I put 41. Number 2, value 2. Let's say I put 35. Number 2, value 3, 37. Okay. So, okay, tengok betul-betul kat sini. Now, we want to call function calculate value. Okay, we call function calculate value. We pass this value. Okay. So, we going to pass in 1D or 2D class. 1D or 2D? Tidur ke kelas. Kita akan pass value in 1D or 2D? 2D. Ain seorang je jawab. Orang lain? We going to pass in 1D or 2D?
2D.
2D.
Tadi
Okay.
ada.
2D.
Okay. So we going to pass in 2D. So awak nampak kat sini. All the values that we entered just now will be passed here. Okay. Pass in 2D and also we will pass num total. What is a value for num total class? Right. What is the value for num total?
3.
Num value for num total.
2.
2. Ni kat sini dah ada ni. Nampak tak kat sini? Tu. 2. Okay. So we will pass 2. What is the value for num 1?
3.
3. Okay. So we going to pass all values in value. This one. And we going to pass num total and also num 1 to the function calculate underscore value. Okay. So when we pass that value, okay, you can see here, values will receive all values array tadi. Okay, yang ini. Row size we receive 2. Call size we receive 3. Okay, boleh nampak kat situ. And then after that, we going to calculate the total. Total values here we create as a 1D array. So now we going to calculate the total. Total value ni kita akan calculate macam biasa. Okay. Okay. So we calculate. Okay, now we have total values. How many total value that we supposed to have, class? How many total values? Class? How many total values that we supposed to have? 2 or 3?
2.
2. Okay. 2 total values. Okay. So you can see here. We have 2 total values in our local variable. Okay. So we have total values 122.0 and also 113.0. Okay. So we have this one. We have 1D array total value. So we will return this total value. Okay. So we will return the whole list of that total value. When we return this one, it will receive by total here. Okay. Total we receive that value. Okay. Tengok kat sini. Total dapat that value. Okay. Total receive that value. 122 and 113. Okay. Okay, now we call determine grade. We want to determine this total value in which grade. Okay. So we call determine grade and we pass value. Okay. We pass value. We pass value. Mana tadi? Values here. We pass value and we pass total that have been calculated and we pass num total and also we pass num value. So we pass to the determine grade. Okay, dalam determine grade, value here will get all the values into D. This one. Total here we get 1D total value and total we get 2. Num we get 3. Okay. So yang ni sama macam biasa. This one is actually because we want to print it. So that's why we have the value as well because we want to print the output there. Okay. So kita buat macam biasa yang ni. So kita dapatlah. Okay. For number 1 we have value 1, value 2, value 3. And then we have the total here and then we have yes pass with A. And then for the next number which is number 2, we have number 2, the value for number 2, value 1, value 2, value 3, and the total for number 2. And also we will get the grade. Yes, pass with A. Okay. Lepas tu done. Siap. Okay, understand class? Senang kan?
Yes.
Senang kan?
Bolehlah.
Bolehlah. Okay. Okay, senang je sebab dia memang awak nak pass apa? Pass je, letak je nama apa. Macam tu. Dia konsep Python sangat mudah. You nak pass apa? You nak pass value yang mana? Oh, saya nak pass value yang daripada Ahmad. Okay, pass lah Ahmad tu. Macam tu je konsep dia. Okay, pass Ahmad, orang sana macam contohnya Abu. Abu dapat exactly value daripada Ahmad. Dia tak ada tukar apa-apa. Okay. Kalau C memang susah. Awak nak kena point ke sana dulu. Lepas tu daripada point tu pula nak kena cari pula dia address yang mana. So tapi Python senang. Konsep dia you nak pass apa, you pass je nama. Sedebok pass macam tu. Okay. Konsep dia. Okay. Lepas tu dah siap yang ni. Yang ni matrices ni yang ini kalau awak nak guna matrix operation, you can have this NumPy. NumPy is a library in Python, the core library for scientific computing. And then you can have any matrices operations that you want. For example, add, subtract, divide, multiply, dot, transpose and many more. Okay. Saya tak pergi detail lah yang ni. Ni these are the contoh dia lah. Example dia. Okay. Okay. What I want you to do is this one. First, I want you to do this exercise for easy level for robot arm. Okay. What you need to do is enhance the robot arm program by implementing array list. Okay. The data and length value must be in array list based on how many number of robot arm entered by user in numRobot. And then after that, you're going to pass the array list to the function. There are two functions that you need to create. Yeah, last time you create two functions, right? Determine coordinate and also coordinate location. So I want you to pass the array list to this function. Okay? Awak kena fikirlah macam mana nak buat tu. Okay, second exercise adalah tag system. Okay, tag system that you already already developed last time. I want you to enhance the tag system program by implementing any 2D array list. Use that 2D array list to store employees info. For example, employee ID, employee name, and taxable yearly salary. You must create one to the array to store this information. So means that for one employee, they're going to have employee ID, employee name, and taxable yearly salary. Okay. And then after that, you're going to pass the 2D value into related function. Okay. So here is I just put the apa tu hint lah dekat sini. Okay. I want you to this part, for this part you will ask user to enter employee info, and then for this part you will pass the array value to the respective functions. Okay. Okay. And after that I want you to, hari ni hari apa ah? Rabu. Oh, minggu depan hari Isnin awak cuti juga. So kena buat jugalah yang ni. Okay. So next exercise, you need to, for hard level, you need to calculate purchase discount. Enhance the calculate purchase discount that we have done last time by implementing array. Okay. And any appropriate array list. Awak tengok program yang lepas tu, then awak fikir which array list is suitable for that problem. Okay. And use that array list to pass the value into the related functions. Okay. So there are 3 exercises. Easy level, hard intermediate level, and hard level. Okay, class? Boleh?